Hi, I am Abby Whitaker. I'm a nurse practitioner in Arcanum, Ohio, but I am also a mom. I'm a mom of 3 kids. My oldest is 21, and he recently got treated for the vaping illness. I feel like I need to explain some things. First of all, I need to say I'm not diagnosing or treating at all in this video. It is information only. But this vaping illness has taken the medical field by storm. There was no warning, extremely unexpected, and I have been a registered nurse 19 years, and I have been a nurse practitioner over 12. My background is pulmonary critical care and ICU, and I'm a family nurse practitioner. So the biggest problem is, one, this first wave of illnesses are mostly teens and 20s, so they act like children. They go until they collapse. They compensate is what we call it. Adults decline over time, so you have more warning. So like vital signs like oxygen and everything will stay stable or compensated, like up a little bit, but not critical like an old person, until they just flat out stop breathing. The other problem is they, how do I explain it? They all our basic testing for anything in the lungs, all our basic testing isn't picking this up, because it's not infection, it's severe inflammation, and currently they believe that it is the oil consolidating and blocking the little sacs in the lungs that exchange your carbon dioxide and oxygen. So this is not infectious unless it's severe enough that you get a secondary pneumonia or pneumonia on top of everything else. So chest x-rays, which is our basic way to check the chest, doesn't pick it up until the person's to the point that they need to be on a breathing machine. Labs show infection and inflammation, so of course we go after the infection first, because that's always been the most deadly. On top of it, like if you have trouble breathing in healthcare, we sit you up to like a tripod, is what we call it, position to breathe better. With this, it's the exact opposite. It is laying them flat or back, because their lungs are pushed way down, their diaphragm's pushed down, they get a lot of belly symptoms, the blood pools down low, because there seems to be more blockages up top from the oil consolidating. So laying them flat, they breathe easier, their numbers look better, they're not in distress. So that is exactly opposite than everything we've ever been trained. On top of it, we by the time they get to the point of needing a CAT scan of their chest, they get something called popcorn lung. And what it really looks like, Google it, it looks like all these little white spots on the chest in the CAT scan, which is like slices down the chest, or anywhere but the chest for this. And what they currently, the CDC currently is kind of putting out there is, it is all these little oil spots. It's all the consolidation. So at the bottom, they can get this ground glass type nodule appearance, which has always been associated more with cancer and then maybe infection. But that's where a lot of the kids that are getting into a lot of trouble get that secondary pneumonia. So all our testing that we have ever learned in school or ever practiced doesn't catch it early, catches it late. They have so many abdominal symptoms, high-grade, low-grade fevers, severe headaches, that on especially teens and 20s, we start rolling out meningitis, which means lumbar punctures, which is a needle into the spinal fluid to pull out, make sure it's not infected. So for my 21-year-old, it was a spinal tap. It was a CT of the head to rule out masses and inflammation up there that's severe. And then the next trip was, okay, we're going to scan the gut. They found an early appendix. Wasn't our source, but was early enough that we took it anyhow because we didn't know what was going on. And granted, I mean, he's like 3 weeks out now from all this, or from the beginning of it. And then eventually the lungs get centered on. And luckily, we're not luckily, but unfortunately, we've had enough cases now that they're starting to look at the lungs earlier. But on top of everything else, by the time they are critical, trying to keep them off a breathing machine if possible, blood work looks infectious as much as inflammation, then they end up on sepsis protocol, which is IV fluids, IV antibiotics as strong as we make, but it's not treating it. It would treat a secondary pneumonia, but it's not treating our vape problem in the lungs. So we're treating, but then we're not treating what needs to be treated because, again, we don't know what in the hell we're dealing with because this is so new. And none of it makes sense. So then on top of that, once we figured out, or enough cases have happened that they have figured out that steroids has helped, that's great. But when you get to the point where you got to decide if you're going to try the steroids will either turn them around. I mean, like, IV steroids in the hospital every 8 hours, will all of a sudden you'll see a difference every day. They'll get better. But if you're wrong, and if they are septic to the bloodstream, infection to the bloodstream, you could kill them with IV steroids. So it's not an easy decision to make. And the reason I feel so passionate is because we just lived through this with my 21-year-old. And everybody will say, well, it's only the THC. It's only the chemicals, the extra chemicals that's getting put into it. Well, yes and no. The CDC says 19% are nicotine-only cases, vaping, but nicotine only. When the CDC puts out statistics, that means they checked them. That means they had negative drug screens. They're not just lying. A lot of them, I personally think a lot of them are the actual mechanism. It is the vaping itself and what's in the vaping. So the extra chemicals or the oil or whatever finally gets decided after months of testing. But as a healthcare worker, we used to say, if vaping will help you quit smoking, then try it. So wrong. So wrong. Smoking will kill you 20, 30 years later, really enhance your chance of heart disease, lung cancers, and all that. My healthy 21-year-old vaped for 6 months. 6 months. We were in and out of the hospital for 2 weeks. That is with me hovering with my background. Of course, to the point of annoying because I'm a concerned mom and a healthcare worker. The hospitals are just now starting to train some of their staff to see some of this, because even in, like, we were in our county ER and then to Dayton, Ohio, which is the closest city for us, even the nurses, God bless them, were asking me, like, why are you still so concerned? And I'm like, because this is happening, because this is happening, because he's breathing 30 times a minute asleep on oxygen. He's going to compensate until he doesn't breathe, until we put a tube down his throat. We had tons and tons of prayer, and it is only by the grace of God that, 1, he's alive, 2, we didn't get on a breathing machine, and 3, he is home and recovering. I really, really feel like this is a modern day plague. It's going to wipe out some of our population, already has, already put people in, well, killed people, but put them into major health issues. There's going to be long-term consequences. there's probably going to be waves. The first wave is the young ones, the teens and the 20s, because they do stuff in excess, and this next generation thinks weed, pot, whatever is nothing because we're legalizing it. And as a healthcare worker, it has great properties, but it also, the more you legalize it, the more it looks like nothing to the next generation. So it's a big catch-22. The next wave, I think, will probably be our chronic lungers who went over to vaping to get their families off their back, try to quit smoking, whatever. So they're going to have the chronic lung issues and then the vaping issues, and we're going to be in trouble. The third wave hopefully will be smaller than all of them. They'll be the middle-aged people who thought this only happened to the people using the THC, and they've just been slowly using the nicotine for a few years, and eventually catches up with them. So hear this mama's plea, this medical mama's plea. Quit vaping. Don't think your children aren't vaping. National statistics for 2019 show 80% of high school seniors have attempted to vape something. Junior high, the numbers are somewhere down around 45 to 50% have tried it. Junior high, like 7th, 8th grade. Hopefully not 5th grade. But 7th, 8th grade have at least been exposed to it, have tried it. I mean, it is hard to get caught because there's no smell. Some of them look like little USB fobs. I mean, like they're carrying them on their keychain. So don't be stupid as a parent. Sit down and talk to them and say, cigarettes will kill you in 20, 30 years when you're an adult. This will kill you now. Now. Not forever later, all right? And more than anything, I plead to our government, ban it. We have worse things banned. We have less things banned. Ban it until we know what's going on. Ban it for 4 months and do some research. I don't care. Ban it because people are dying. So I hope this helps. I don't know that it will, but people that live near me, it is happening in our little farm community. Don't think it's not. Thank you. Bye.